Brought to you by Penguin.
To boldly go where no book has gone before, written and read by me, Luke O'Neill. Introduction. When I was 12 years old, my parents gave me a chemistry set for Christmas. Eagerly, I took it to my bedroom, cleared the small table of the toy soldiers I'd lined up, and my journey into science began. I laid out the test tubes and various chemicals that came with the kit, and oh joy, there was also a small glass jar for the methylated spirits burner. Fire and chemicals, what a Christmas it promised to be. Then I opened the little manual that came with the kit, and disappointment struck. A lot of boring writing. It explained that methylated spirits is neat ethanol, the component of alcoholic drinks that makes you drunk, mixed with some bitter and toxic chemicals to stop it being drunk. Each molecule of ethanol is composed of 2 carbon atoms, 6 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, and when it is exposed to a spark, it can combine with oxygen in the air to form water, H2O, and carbon dioxide, CO2, liberating an excess of energy, mainly as heat. Even now, when I smell methylated spirits, I have to get my kick somewhere. I am transported back to my bedroom and my chemistry set. Ignoring the manual, I decided to do my first experiment. I grabbed one of the biggest test tubes and added a spatula full of every chemical in the kit. I added some water and shook everything vigorously, but nothing much happened. A little bit of fizzing, but nowhere near as much fun as the fizzing I'd seen when I put 3 whole tablespoons of my dad's Andrew's liver salts into a glass of water. So I hit upon an idea. What if I heated it up? I placed the test tube in its stand, put a cork bung in the top, set it over the burner's flame and waited. 3 long minutes later, bang! My mother ran upstairs to find not what I thought a real scientist should look like, singed eyebrows, frazzled hair and goofy grin, but a faintly guilty, excited boy and a huge splat of brown chemicals on the ceiling. Still, I was inspired, and despite multiple coats of paint, the brown stain remained. Later, as I did my duller but safer chemistry homework, I would look up at the ceiling and daydream of the halcyon days when a boy could blow up his bedroom. In recent years, in a turn of events none of my scientific colleagues could have foreseen, I became a household name. Irish television made a documentary about my life, and we returned to film in that very bedroom nearly 50 years later. And guess what? The stain was still there. If only I could remember the concoction, I could patent some everlasting brown paint. After the incident with the stain, my next scientific revelation came in a science lesson at secondary school. Our teacher, Gutty, he had that wonderful nickname because he loved nothing better than gutting all sorts of creatures in our biology lessons, stood with great showmanship at the front of the class and said, "Now watch this, boys." He had 2 big test tubes, both half filled with what looked like water. He poured one of these clear liquids into the other and it turned bright yellow like egg yolk. I was amazed. How could 2 colourless liquids be so transformed? I learned that what he had mixed was lead nitrate and potassium iodide. The yellow precipitate that formed is called lead iodide. As Walter White in Breaking Bad, the #1 show for us chemistry nerds, said to his disinterested pupils, chemistry is the study of change. You see, a swapping of sorts had happened. The iodine moved from the potassium to the lead, forming a new chemical with totally different properties. In another inspirational lesson with Gutty, he had 6 expensive and fragile mercury thermometers, 1 for each of the groups he divided us into. In a deep and serious voice he said, "Now listen, boys. If anyone in any group breaks a thermometer, I will punish all 6 boys in that group." The practical began, our group using the expensive thermometer to measure the change in temperature of water when we added a certain amount of water of another temperature. No Nobel Prize for guessing that the temperature changed. We even drew graphs. Gutty said it was important to draw graphs if you were a scientist. We took turns handling the thermometer carefully, and it was all going very well. At the end of the session, I was left with an improved understanding of energy transfer, and I was also left holding the thermometer. My job was to put it back in its plastic sheath, which carefully I did. It slid in nicely. However, I hadn't...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?